For the past few years, I was lucky enough to spend some time working and living in New York City. And to say it was everything I could have dreamed of and more, probably would still be an understatement to this day. Actually, to be honest, I thought I was going to be there for at least 5 years. That is, until I was presented an opportunity to go anywhere in the world and build my dream studio to work out of. Thanks, real world. Naturally, after 8 years away from home, I decided to come back to Canada. More specifically, my hometown of Calgary, just outside the Rocky Mountains. From there, we did what anyone would do next: buy a home and start breaking it in. We found a house with an amazing basement that would work perfect for the new workspace. Great layout, open, roomy. However, there was just one slight problem with it. It was already built. In order to create a proper sound-isolated recording studio, we needed to get this thing down to the studs and start completely fresh. This was going to be a huge learning process for me specifically. I mean, who knew what actually went into building a room? Drywall, 1,000 screws, insulation, finishings, designing new electrical. And sure, throwing the hammer through the wall was fun, but hauling up 1,000 pounds of drywall and garbage upstairs out into the bin, well, I'm gonna leave that one up to the imagination. Today was the first day of a 4-month project underway. Did I mention I have no idea what I'm doing other than what I planned out on that cocktail napkin? Cool. Thankfully, I found an awesome contractor who specializes in building home theaters. So we hired him to take it over from here and get us to at least the paint and mudding stage where we'd eventually take back over. Now, we're talking material and design that you probably won't see in any average house build. With our new electrical in place, each outlet, wall sconce, pretty much any hole that's going to be exposed is wrapped in a special dense putty to trap the sound escaping once the special room is actually built. And there's a lot more holes in the wall than you think. Now, this is special, super thick sound absorbing insulation, and we need a lot of it. And of course, what renovation would be complete without a few problems along the way? This right here is a return air vent that needs to head back to the furnace, but how do you soundproof that? Well, you build a maze of absorbing metal inside the chute to deflect as much sound as possible, and then you insulate and wrap the hell out of that bulkhead with a few more special materials under all that insulation. Now that the room is fully insulated and taped up tight, I guarantee you've never seen anything quite like this when it comes to installing the double thick panes of drywall next. These are special aluminum brackets that are going to separate the drywall from the insulation. They create a 2-inch air gap that will actually help trap even more sound top to bottom behind the walls. So, if you can imagine, the drywall's almost floating away from the walls on their own, giving us that extra layer of sound absorption to trap the air. Next, a special sound adhesive is used to seal off any holes or cracks between all the sheets of drywall. And I probably should mention each of these double thick drywall sheets weighs roughly about 100 pounds to pick up. Now, to finish the basic seal, some taping and mudding. And if you've ever tried sanding in shop class in high school, you'd have as much appreciation for these guys as I did, reaching into every crevice and corner high above your head, sanding over and over. Now, before we can start painting, the entire room needs to be primed head to toe. If you've ever heard someone yelling inside a room, where does most of the sound escape from? That's right, the doors. We went with 2 custom sets of double doors entering the studio, as well as the furnace room with special seals to keep as much of that pesky noise inside the room as we also wanted to keep out. After that, it was time to install the decorative ceiling panels to give the room some flair rather than an old popcorn ceiling. We give the ceiling a little bit of border and trim to add to the depth since we colored each panel black. From here, my family and I took back over and stumbled our way through finishing this room now that the big intense construction build was finally finished. And it turns out it was still a whackload of work that lied ahead. I wanted to do something different and give the room some texture, also help diffuse the sound once the studio's up and running. So I found this cool material and decided to build 2 main feature walls. As we planned out the depths and shapes of the wood blocks in advance of sticking, little did we know installing it would actually take hours and hours, and just wait till you see the big wall we had to do. There's also the detail that when dealing with real wood, not every piece is going to be manufactured the exact same size. So cutting around vents, electrical holes, and wall sconces was definitely an additional trick. When planning a room on paper, you never really know how the light fixtures you ordered or even the paint colors from a swatch will actually look once you get them installed. But luckily, I do think these turned out pretty interesting. After 2 months of waiting for a giant 2,000-pound container to be dropped on my driveway from Spain, the voice booth from StudioWorks finally arrived, unassembled. This is a 2-hour time-lapse with only a few edits, and might I say, 2 very tired guys at the end of it. Even the special door alone weighed about 260 pounds. In the end, not having a voice booth that is stuck and or built into the house forever was kind of the main goal of why we did it this way. But this puppy comes with a hefty $12,000 price tag, so make sure to buy the no-name Eggo waffles at the store for the next 20 years. As we get ready to put the final touches on finishing inside the studio and sealing up the doors, we can finally start bringing in the sound tools and gear. Here we go.